Welcome to the third episode of the Simon and Cole Show. I'm Cole.
I'm Simon.
Today we're going to talk about a female perspective post that was posted by Ruth on 325 called "Wake Up Ladies, Don't Suck His Dick." And this post is basically about Ruth saying she feels that women make themselves available and hook up a lot of the time not because they want to hook up, but because they have some other ulterior motive, like dealing with a deep-seated emotional issue. In response to the guy, it would be maybe wanting a relationship with that guy, but maybe just overall making her feel better about herself, raising self-esteem, making her feel loved or not noticed. And the guys aren't really playing this game fairly. That the guys notice this, and even if they don't notice it, they're basically just taking advantage of the situation. And they're hooking up with these girls basically with the intention of just fucking them.
Right. No agenda whatsoever.
No agenda.
Just bone. And it's interesting to note that, this is a response sort of to episode 1 where we talked, Cole told a story about a girl named Karina that he had gone home with.
And in this segment of the post, a lot of it is Ruth talking about telling stories about her own life. And, those are kind of personal stories which she chose to share, but we're not going to critique her own situation. We're just going to go with the general points that she makes and talk about our opinions on them.
So she sort of starts off, just as Cole said, talking about herself, and then she goes through a few lessons that she's learned. Number 2 being, those adoring, you're the only girl for me, gazing into your soul and need you, want you now baby eyes are entirely fake. So essentially she's just saying that, somebody who pours on a lot of, spits a lot of game at a girl is not actually being real, and in that sense we actually completely agree with her. It's something that, it doesn't really take a lot of game spitting in order to get somebody. It really doesn't take that at all.
To get to know somebody, you just have to have a conversation where you're both being yourself.
Right.
Although, our one point is basically, some people are just extremely complimentary. Some people are going to tell you they're beautiful.
Right.
They're going to tell you they never met anyone like you before because they actually do feel that way. So I wouldn't say that for ladies to just go running for the hills immediately if they hear that. But, just kind of be on your guard. Although you should be on your guard anyway. And this is basically what Ruth is saying is, don't trust that right off the bat. But, be a little bit more critical of if what's coming out is genuine.
But I think it's just that we are sort of more expressive, we as men are more expressive about our sexual needs and desires than women are. And part of that is society. Part of it is that we're allowed to do that. It's cool for a guy to do it, and that's that terrible double standard which exists. Right. And girls are instantly a slut if they sleep with 2 people. Guys are cool, and it's no big deal. They just don't think it's weird, and that's part of it.
Right.
So, she continues to go on, aroused men are literally too dumb to have any motive beyond just wanting to stick it in something.
Now, this is in contrast to talking about how women rarely enter into a sexual situation without some sort of ulterior motive. She's saying that women always have something else going on, whether it's self-esteem or trying to, kind of weasel their way into a relationship. And men basically just want to fuck, and that it's a male fantasy that a woman is just going to want to fuck.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
So this is another.
I'm looking for it all the time.
Right. So this is just another example of, this distinction between men and women. And when she says literally here, aroused men are literally too dumb to have any motive beyond just wanting to stick it in something. We completely agree with that. And actually what I was trying to get at in a previous post about the case of the semen dilemma is that guys actually have this problem where not having sex for a while or being really horny takes it to a place where they can literally have trouble controlling their actions to the point where they're going to do something based on horniness that they wouldn't do otherwise.
Absolutely.
Like any upstanding guy. And this isn't an excuse at all.
Yeah, no.
This doesn't make it right, Guys do have to
we gotta be
how
more
to
aware.
control these things.
We gotta be more aware.
Be more aware. But she's basically saying it creates problems again, how guys are just playing this from I want to fuck, and girls might be saying I want to fuck, but they actually want something else.
Right. So,
then she goes on to talk about how she says men are not assholes, which we obviously agree with.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
some guys are assholes. And another quick thing that she was pointing out in the men are not assholes is that, she's saying there's rarely some sort of monumental miscommunication which would lead people to not meet up, or just, I'm too busy, I'm too this. Simon's talked about a lot. If he likes a girl, it doesn't matter how busy he is, he's
Right.
going to make that a priority, right?
No
And
matter
as, he's just not that into you, has shown us, when you're kind of beating around the bush and making excuses, these are excuses.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
nothing more than an excuse. And, the point is, he's just not really interested in you.
Yeah, right.
And you shouldn't keep trying to weasel your way into these ulterior motives as a woman. Because you're never going to get that.
you're wasting your time.
Like, women seem to think for some reason that if they have given a long enough period of time, they can convince a man to feel a certain way.
But
or change his behavior,
so
right?
not
Like,
that.
women think they're going to mold their future husband into the husband they want them to be. But, this doesn't really happen. Like, you're going to find someone that is really good for you. And then that's going to be the guy that you find that you feel fulfilled with, not someone that you're going to try and mold.
Before we finish up here, she said that oral sex is the most physically surrendering act that one can perform. In the case of a blowjob, one is lowering themselves physically, the implication being that they are surrendering power and control to the other person and performing a one-way pleasure act. Completely wrong. Completely wrong. And I'll tell you why. I've heard from so many, not because I know, but I've heard from so many girls that is actually something that it's not a one-way pleasure act in any way. It's something that they get a ton of pleasure from. I mean, I've honestly heard of like girls that oh my god, I almost came just giving you head. Like,
right.
And and it's the same exact thing as we discussed before. Same exact thing with women or men on women. I mean, when I'm going down on a girl, honestly, it feels just as good as it does to get head. Maybe not physically, but the satisfaction that I get knowing that she's getting satisfaction out of it, completely 100%. Like, I just totally disagree.
Right, and from our experience, it's like it's hard for us to kind of look at this and say, when you're giving a blowjob, you're surrendering power, and that you're saying like you're my god. Because for me, when I'm going down on a girl, it's like I'm not doing that at all. I really want to give this girl pleasure. Like, in the case of like my girlfriend, like I really want to give my girlfriend pleasure. I want her to be satisfied, Like for a second, I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about them, and I want to give them an orgasm and make them feel really good because it makes me feel good to make them feel good. And I can't imagine it's any different for women.
Yeah.
So the idea that this is like a surrendering one-way thing, for us, just seems kind of like a little bit off.
And licking box is really fun. So.
And licking box is incredibly fun. So kind of to finish up here, Ruth is basically just telling us, women have ulterior motives. It's very rare that you're going to find a woman that just wants to fuck.
Right.
And men come into the situation usually with no other motives.
Right.
Either they're going to want to get to know you and have a relationship, because many guys feel that way, or they're out for a one-night stand.
Yeah.
And Ruth says in her last paragraph that her problem with the early 20 sex game is that nearly every man involved isn't playing with a respectful attitude. Now, we agree with this.
It's
a lot of guys aren't being respectful. They are going into this, I'm going to manipulate a girl into fucking me.
Yeah.
But, by saying that it's the guy's fault is taking the attitude of the victim.
Yeah, right. And saying that I have no control of this situation and there's nothing that I can do about it. And that doesn't solve any problems. That's essentially saying, here's the problem and I'm the victim, and so in your face.
Right.
But that doesn't do anything for anyone.
To get a collective population of people to do something, the equally collective population has to stop allowing it to happen, right?
Absolutely.
It's like anything. It's like electing a president.
Yeah.
It's a reflection of what the general population feels. And the general population of women is allowing themselves to be manipulated. And it's not that we think that this makes it okay on the part of the guy.
Right. Again,
it's just that
women need to be more aware of the situation they're putting themselves in, and men need to be aware of the situation that they're putting both people in, both teammates in this game of dating. Like, we need to be more aware of this. We need to stop that behavior in order to actually get somewhere, so that there isn't this, monumental miscommunication.
And, stand up for yourself.
Yeah, right.
Stand up for yourself. You can take equal power. Don't try and get something out of a guy because you feel a lack in yourself. try and be with a guy because you want to be with a guy. Just do it for the right reasons, not to get something out of it, but just because that's actually what you want.
Yep.
Because if you're trying to get a guy as a girl, guys are literal. If you tell them we want to fuck, they're down to fuck.
They're gonna do it.
If you tell them you want to go out on some dates, they'll take you out on dates if they like you. It's not that difficult, honestly.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, obviously we couldn't cover all of what Ruth said. There was a lot in here, and thank you a lot, Ruth, for writing this in. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Absolutely.
And we hope you enjoyed our commentary on it, and hopefully you'll tune in a couple weeks for episode 4.
I do.
Yeah, thanks.